News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Tuesday on Wall Street. Stocks trimmed back this morning's stock sell-off. Assurances on U.S. military action to secure shipping lanes helped tamp down a surge in oil. We're going to talk about all of it just ahead. But first, let's bring you those closing numbers. We do that every day for you here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 down 65 points. NASDAQ down 232 points. The Dow down 403 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.06%. The 2-year yield at 3.5%. And Bitcoin is down 1.8%. Spot gold now down about 4.2%. And the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index is more than 0.5% higher. President Trump says the U.S. will provide insurance guarantees and naval escorts to ensure safe passage for oil tankers and other vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump posted on social media that the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation will offer insurance to help ensure the flow of energy and other commercial trade in the Gulf, and that the U.S. Navy will escort tankers through if necessary. Oil prices pared back gains briefly on that news. WTI and Brent crude each close to about 4% higher. President Trump, ahead of his meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz at the White House, says he figured Iran would strike if the U.S. and Israel didn't. And he's pushing for new Iran leadership, calling today's strikes, quote, pretty substantial.
I guess the worst case would be we do this and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen.
The president is critical of UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who declined a request to use British bases for operations against Iran. UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves says the UK is not going to make any decisions about a war with Iran based on trade ties.
When it comes to decisions around using British armed forces to take part in conflicts around the world, it is very important that we judge those on whether it is legal and whether it is the right thing to do.
UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves spoke exclusively to Bloomberg at our London headquarters. And President Trump has told Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to cut off all trade ties with Spain after the country denied access to its military bases. Trump criticized Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez for rebuffing his call on NATO allies to raise defense spending.
Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%.
Spain has responded, saying if the administration wants to review its trade relationship, it has to do so while respecting the autonomy of private companies, international law, and the bilateral agreements between the EU and the United States. Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari says it is still too soon to see an impact on inflation from the Iran conflict.
The labor market is pretty good. A little bit getting softer, but generally speaking, we're around the bands of our dual mandate. And so I felt like policy was in a pretty good place, and we have the luxury of just letting it gradually glide back to neutral. Now we need to see with this new shock, potentially a new shock hitting the global economy, how long is the effect and how big is the effect?
Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari spoke with Bloomberg at the Bloomberg Invest Conference in New York. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee and was asked by ranking Democrat Dick Durbin about families grieving for those killed by immigration agents.
We are working in those situations where there's a tragic loss of life and that there is something that our agents are involved in, that we continue to deliver information.
Is it so hard to say you were wrong?
Noem did not apologize nor retract her statements about Alex Preddy and Renee Good, fatally shot by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis in January. She called them domestic terrorists. Apollo Global Management CEO Mark Rowan says Jeffrey Epstein is a waste of his time, even from the grave. The alternative asset manager says he only dealt with the late sex offender through the firm's co-founder, Leon Black.
He was Leon's tax advisor. We ran a partnership, not a company back then. Leon's tax position was relevant to my tax position. Other than that, I'm very sorry and didn't see what Jeff was doing. Me, I didn't like him for my own reasons. He wasted my time.
Apollo CEO Mark Rowan spoke with Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwaite at Bloomberg Invest in New York. Catch that full conversation at our new hub for streaming video and all our Bloomberg TV shows, Bloomberg.com/videos. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.